from Seattle, Washington. Welcome to Mountain Home Village, Village Sabbath. I early conceived a liking for and sought every opportunity to relieve the sufferings of others. Rebecca Lee Crumber was the first African-American woman doctor in the United States to earn an MD degree in medicine. She was a doctor who challenged the injustice that prevented African Americans from pursuing careers in medicine. She worked as a nurse for 8 years. She was admitted into the England Female Medical College in 1860 and graduated 4 years later with her MD. Also, she won a tuition award from the Wade Scholarship Fund. After the end of civil wars in 1865, Dr. Crumber moved to Richmond, Virginia, to provide medical care for the freed slaves. She eventually returned to Massachusetts. She opened her own clinic in Boston. In 1883, Crumber published a book of medical discourses. And first book was on care for infants, and second book was on women's health. She saw poverty-stricken patients and treated them regardless of their ability to pay.
Marshall was an American lawyer and judge. When Thurgood was a child, his dad would take him to watch trials and memorize the Constitution. The Constitution is the most important law in the United States. This love for law from his parents made Thurgood want to be a lawyer, but when he applied to the University of Maryland, they rejected him because they didn't accept black students. Thurgood went on to get his law degree from historically black Howard University and became a civil rights lawyer. To make sure everyone would have the same rights no matter who they were, Thurgood mainly fought for all students to go to good schools together, whether they were black or white, Mexican or any other black background. His most famous case was Brown versus the Board of Education, made it illegal to separate students by race in the entire United States.
Dorothy Height. Without community service, we would not have a strong quality of life. It's important to the person who serves as well as the recipient. It's the way in which we ourselves grow and develop. Dorothy Height was born 1912, died 2010. She was named godmother of the women's movement. Height used her background in education and social skill work to advance women's rights. She was a leader in the Young Women Christian Association and the president of the National Council of Negro Women for more than 40 years. She was also among the few women present at the 1963 March on Washington, where Dr. King delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech.
Nelson Mandela. Nelson was a South African leader who fought against apartheid. This was a system that kept black people and white people apart in separate neighborhoods, schools, hospitals, and churches. Very few rights for black people. Because of this work, Nelson was arrested and he spent 26 years in prison. But after people around the world pressured the South African government for his release, Nelson left prison, helped end apartheid, and was elected the first president of South Africa.
boys and girls, today I'm going to be reading your story for you. Jesus sat on the hillside teaching. As usual, a lot of people listened to him. Some came because he gave them hope. Some came because he helped them understand the love of God. Others came because they doubted him and wanted to test him. Today, a lawyer was in the crowd. He was one who wanted to test Jesus. So he asked, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus, who could understand this lawyer's heart, answered his question with a question. He wanted everyone to hear and understand. What is written in the law? How do you read it? The lawyer smiled proudly and said, "Love your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "You have answered correctly," Jesus responded. "Do this and you will live." The lawyer did not want the conversation to be over so quickly. He thought of another angle. "And who is my neighbor?" he baited Jesus. Jesus looked out over the crowd and began one of his stories. Most people loved it when he told stories. Others became quite angry when he would not come right out and argue the law with them. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. He was traveling alone, and a band of robbers saw him as an easy target for their evil purposes. They overpowered him, stripped him, beat him, took everything he had, and left him by the side of the road, nearly dead. A priest happened along the same road. He saw the man, possibly dead, by the other side of the road. Quickly he slipped to the other side so that he could appear not to have noticed. After a while, a Levite came across the wounded man. After looking at him, he crossed over to the other side so he would not be considered unclean. Finally, a Samaritan man came along with his loaded donkey. Instead of being afraid that he might be attacked, the Samaritan stopped out of pity. His only thought was that this person by the side of the road needed his help. Taking wine and oil and a cloth from his supplies, he dressed and bandaged the wound. Then he carefully placed him on his donkey and headed on to Jericho. At the first inn he reached, he helped the wounded man get settled for the night as comfortably as he could. The next morning, after making sure that wounded man was resting comfortably, the Samaritan placed the money before the innkeeper. "Please take care of this man. Here is a deposit. I will pay anything more you spend on him when I return this way." Jesus stopped at this point in his story and looked at all the upturned faces around him. Then he looked at his questioner. "Which of the three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers?" he asked. The man hesitated a minute. He did not like the fact that Jesus had made the hero of the story a Samaritan. Samaritans were considered racially inferior by the Jews. They were also religiously inferior, not true Jews. Why had Jesus made the bad guys of the story religious men like himself? He did not even want to say the word Samaritan, so he answered, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus smiled. The expert had answered his own question. "Go and do the same thing," Jesus said. The lawyer walked thoughtfully away. Without arguing or debating, Jesus had said that his followers should treat anyone in need with kindness and mercy. It did not matter what color their skin was, how smart they were, what language they spoke, or even how they smelled. Anyone in need was their neighbor. And the heroes of everyday kindness were not always religious people. Sometimes the best example came from a despised Samaritan who knew how to love.
History Month, we're going to be making a gamma graph. You will need 2 pieces of blank paper, 2 collages, male and female. You'll need construction construction paper. I picked brown because I wanted to. You'll need scissors, you'll need tape, you'll need glue, you'll need a ruler, and you'll need a pencil. So I'm gonna be putting these two collages together. Then putting them together with the two white papers. Cut off these two extra sides. I cut off these two extra sides and now I'm gonna toss them in the garbage. At the back of each paper, I'm gonna mark every 1 inch. I'm gonna draw lines from the top to the bottom. Now you're gonna label it A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, A7, A8. So now on this one, I'm gonna do B1, B2, B3, B4, and then keep on going. So I'm gonna be putting this on. You're gonna put one on top of the other. And get it. Gonna cut through. Oops. Now I have everything cut up, and it's really important that you put the labels there so you'll know where everything goes. Now I'm gonna put this to the side. I'm gonna use the white paper and I'm gonna get my tape and tape it up so it's big enough. Gonna get my ruler and I'm gonna draw right 1 inch gonna fold it like an accordion. A1 starts with at the end, so I'm gonna put it here. Now this is B1. We need to put B1 right here. I already did A1 and B1 and I lined up everything else so it's easy for me. Now I'm putting glue on each of them. Now I'm gonna put this onto the paper. This is the final project. You can see the man on this side. And you can see the woman on this side. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this project. Bye.